What is good, Cardano fam, Ada gang? We have lots of exciting updates to unpack today, but also we need to talk about the breaking news, which was the former president was nearly assassinated. Charles has been very outspoken. He was live on Spaces last night, and he's been approaching this with a very open mind, lots of decorum, and he's passionate. I see people like Elon getting very passionate, and I think we can all agree that love is the answer, and the country is becoming very divided. Now, I don't do identity politics, guys, but it's sad to see that, people were hurt in the process, be it himself or innocent victims also in the crossfire. It's not good to see stuff like this because it's going to further divide the country. And so let's check out this statement. There's more like this from Charles. Definitely check it out. Everything's linked below. And then we'll dive into him slamming Joe and also a video response. He says, back in my day, we called them assassins. We called attacks like we witnessed the assassination attempts. And no, Trump didn't have to say he was shot in the ear. We all saw him nearly die alongside two critically wounded in a third person whose brains basically got spilled out. So it is a sad time, guys. And this is the doctor, I believe, Dr. Jim Sweetland, who tried to save the person. And I mean, you can do the math, And if you guys are sleeping under a rock, my bad. I mean, most of you guys probably are already aware of this situation, generally speaking. A lot of people are conspiring what it is, deep fake that. It's pretty crazy. It's like people are so quick to conclude what actually happened, even though they weren't even there. It's just disgusting, says Charles, how the press has been covering this event. We all collectively witnessed this generation's Kennedy moment, right? And the media just politicizes it and spins it or turns into it didn't really happen. A peaceful, how can you have a peaceful quote unquote attempt like this? So it's really a sad time. We can see it whizzing across his ear. And then some of the, what kind of post is this? Gunman dies? How about talking about the person who nearly got whacked, right? So whatever you think, blue, red, orange, yellow, green, I don't care. Peace and love is always the answer. Jesus Christ is King of Kings. We all got to be united under him. That's when we're going to start to enter a golden era of humanity. Charles calls Joe a babbling idiot. The Secret Service works for the president. He literally has Secret Service agents right next to him at all times. If it's a single phone call to Trump's detail. Before you have a preference, you call Trump's detail and ask to Trump directly. And it's kind of like he shows up, right? And he refuses to say if this was an attempt at assassination, which evidently it is. It's like saying, is water wet? And this sleepy dementia old man, it's just ridiculous. Let's have a listen.
Any more comments? Thank you.
Are you worried, President?
An assassination attempt?
I don't know enough to. I
don't know. Guys, the latency at which this guy gets his intel is actually quite ridiculous. It's like me trying to download something It's like me trying to download GTA 5 with dial-up. Good luck. He has so much latency, it's not even if he was a MIDI controller for DJing, you'd have lag spikes and it just wouldn't work. You'd be doing some USB 0.0. Well, let's check out this brief message. I'm playing it a little bit faster, 1.25x. Let's check it out from Charles.
Hi. I wanted to make a brief video to talk today about some things that happened. As many of you are aware, there was an assassination attempt on a major party candidate for President of the United States of America. Earlier today, in Butler, Pennsylvania, Donald Trump was shot at, and the bullets narrowly missed him. They clipped his right ear, and had he not moved his head at the precise moment that he did, there was a very strong possibility that he could have been killed. A person was killed behind him, and two other people were injured, and it appears that the shooter was also killed in a process to attempt to stop him from continuing firing. This, unfortunately, is a predictable event because of the way politics have been devolving in the United States over the past 2-3 decades. We've gone from legitimate differences of opinion to, unfortunately, those who disagree with us are evil and must be destroyed.
And I agree with this. Two people can be right at the same time. But unfortunately, people are doing villain arc because it's easier to do that than to try to understand each other's differences. We should celebrate differences. We should have diplomatic decorum and agree to disagree. Unfortunately, though, think of this whatever you want, but like unfortunately some of the devolution, as he alluded to, Charles, has resulted in like people just go cray and they have no self-identity, and they forget that the people here are all humans, like we're all sacred.
It takes a lot to radicalize people, but once they've become radicalized, the unfortunate result is typically a de-evolution to political violence. And unfortunately, this seems to be where we stand as a nation today.
Yeah, and look, guys, like there's nothing new under the sun. Think of like JFK, think of Lincoln, right? Think of guys who wanted a gold or silver peg dollar. I argue that that might have even been the reason. I speculate that Vivek stepped down, because as soon as he said gold peg dollar, I'm like, oh, they're gonna whack him. Gold peg, whack. Gold peg, whack. They just go hand in hand. And now this, whether it's like a radicalized guy, whether it's inside, whether it's this, we'd be here for years speculating what it is or isn't. But we can all agree that life is precious, and, you know, two wrongs don't make a right. It can be a vicious cycle and an uproar in civil war, basically, which is not what you want, because that can just go on and on and on and really hurt everyone in the end.
Some of the first tweets and trending commentary in social media not were thoughts and prayers or an attempt to gather more information, but certain people saying it's a shame the shooter missed.
Yeah, and it's just disgusting. It's just disgusting. Like, how can someone say that? Because if the roles are reversed, you would hope you turned your head too. You would hope that it grazed your ear. And a lot of people are not identifying the elephant in the room. He might have had rupture of eardrum. Eardrum is very sensitive. And the people who are wishing for the downfall, you will be measured by that way that you measured others. If you're judging others like that, you will be judged by the same measure. And it's just despicable to see people doing headlines. And I saw it yesterday. Some of them got deleted by a certain media groups. But just like these sort of headlines is like, it's like telling me you're dumb without telling me you're dumb. What do you mean he says he was? Like, these people bend and twist stuff like in the most ridiculous way. What happened to agnostic media outlet? What happened to neutral media outlet? What happened to calming down your feelings and actually reporting on the facts? It's just mind-boggling, guys. And, you know, the clown posts like this don't represent the masses, but it's like they're definitely doing us disservice, and they're disingenuous.
It's pretty sad that people...
And it is pretty sad, because we've abandoned like God, like in that sense. We're just like utilitizing, if that is a word, just turning everyone to a utility, villainizing everyone, and like, bruh, no, that's not the solution. That's not how we advance humanity.
People wish for the death of those that they disagree with. But that's where we're at. I don't blame the people tweeting these things, because I think that the totality of society has been captured by now a generation of social media and instantaneous communication to dehumanize people and to look at people as the other. And it's gotten to a point where we no longer look at the people broadcasting as human beings.
This is true, and it's problematic, and this is one of the core tenets for me, is like, what happened to looking at each other as a brother and a sister, and what happened to love thy neighbor? But unfortunately, our love is always wandering like a feather in the air, and it's sad to see like outlets like just like totally disingenuously report on it. Like, bro, like, come on, man, water is wet.
Like us, but rather characters to love or to hate, depending upon where your personal preferences sit or what you've been told. And the reality is, it's impossible for us to have any political change when we live in a society that has devolved to this point. We must take a moment of reflection if we ever hope to get out of all of this, and realize that while we can be divisive at times, we should never lose sight of our common shared humanity. The next 48 hours, 72 hours are going to be a fairly pivotal time in American history.
I agree. You know, as much as we find things to disagree on, there's usually more things we do agree on than disagree on, you know? We all need oxygen, we all need water, we all need this, we all need that. And unfortunately, we have an infinite satisfaction in our eye, you know? And this is biblical, really. But the dehumanizing is very dangerous. And we see that, you know, we're guilty of it too, of like taunting and making fun of. But it's not how we move forward. And he has a good point. Like, these next 2 to 3 days are going to be pivotal to see how the United States, the society, and what happens with leadership. Because, wow, on one side, you got one guy who his brain doesn't even turn on. On the other side, that guy's getting whacked. And then we don't even really get a fair representation for, like, the alternative guys, right? Like the other parties and so on and so forth. It's just such a bizarre carnival that we live in right now. And in the midst of it, we've lost Jesus. In the midst of it, we've lost the sense of humanity and how sacred life is, and that any whim, poof, it can just go. We all get caught up in price go up, but like, you can't take the ledger to the grave. We all get caught up in, can you get Cardano to $10? Can $10? But like, God always loved you before, during, and after.
It's an opportunity for self-reflection. It's an opportunity for us to set aside grievances and come together, or it's an opportunity for us to double down in the divisive rhetoric and continue on a path of eventual destruction. I'm not sure which path we're going to take, but I do know the antidote long-term is exactly what we're doing in the cryptocurrency industry. Because in our industry, what we focus on is disintermediation, decentralization, resilience, and integrity. I think the time has come, because of globalization and things like social media, that we can no longer trust centralized institutions.
Yeah, he has a good point. As much as this might be like a shameless plug, it's rightfully so, because now more than ever, governance and decentralization, I think, is going to be even more important. Because, like, think about it. I'm not an American. I'm Canadian. I love the US, but like, speaking of division and speaking of trust with intermediaries, it's going less and less. We also see in developing nations, for instance, in Iran, the lowest turnout. So the confidence in the system around the world is depleting, and simultaneously in this global movement, one world type of movement, governance like this and blockchain and an immutable system is going to be extremely important.
We've gotten to a point, no matter who leads them, no matter what they do, what they accomplish, we are unable to fully trust them for a variety of reasons. Politics is no different. In fact, it's the epicenter of all such things. Regardless of who wins this election, there will be bitter division moving forward. So if we take a step back in the next 48 to 72 hours and we ask ourselves, where do we go from here? I think it's a moment for us to appreciate that in decentralization, we have the resilience that movements don't require faces. They don't require presidents and leaders. There's no one to shoot. There's no one to demonize. There's no one to canonize. Rather, it is the tireless work of millions of people who have never met each other, yet somehow collectively working together to achieve a greater goal and end. I'd like to live in a world of sound money. I'd like to live in a world where everybody's voice matters. And I'd like to live in a world where you own your own identity.
And he has a point. I really like the libertarian values Charles has. People slam him, meme him, but he's he's actually rich with wisdom. He has a lot of great knowledge. And I would love to see that day. I would love to see that day with sound money. Because, guys, as much as we try to do hustle, there comes a point, I'm sure you guys feel it too, where it feels like an uphill battle. And it ain't the 1950s anymore where you could buy a home with 1 year income. Now you work your whole life, you're lucky if you get the down payment.
And your own data. And when you do things because you want to, not because you've been forced to at the barrel of a gun. To get to such a world, we're probably not going to achieve that with.
And I think those are good values, because even biblically speaking, Jesus, he lets you walk to or from him. And having a resilient system that Cardano has been building for years could be the incubation and could be the place that people decide, you know what, I want to use this. I want to use this tech for legitimizing. I want to use this tech to counter. I want to use this as a beacon of truth. And who knows what will happen? Who knows what will happen in the US? But I think if Old Man Joe gets elected, it's going to be crazy. And I'm an advocate for peace. I don't think those riots and all that is good. I condemn violence, but it's going to get crazy. The civil uproar will hit ATH.
With the leaders we have, we're going to have to wait and build. and integrate. But the next generation, armed with the amazing innovations our industry is providing, amongst others, potentially could achieve real change. So to Trump's family and to Trump himself, you have our thoughts and prayers, and we really hope a speedy recovery. And to the people who have lost loved ones or have injured loved ones as a direct consequence of this incident, this assassination attempt, of course you have thoughts and prayers.
And I agree, man. At the end of the day, like everything here material will become dust. You and I will become dust. We can't take the ledger to the grave. And we were also warned biblically to not chase that which moth and rust destroy. And look how it's destroying the world, right? With our infinite lack of satisfaction. And I'm not going to bore you guys too much with turning this into an extremely biblical video, but I mean, you can see how, like, in these tough times, that is the answer. Also, my condolences, my thoughts and prayers go out to that family, and also to the other innocent victims as well. Guys, if you approach this, and I know that doesn't speak for most of you Angry Crypto fam, but if you approach this of like, oh, he should have done this, or he missed, like, bro, come on, like, just be human. Don't dehumanize everything. That is what the enemy wants, is for us to not love each other and to just cast like just crucify one another, and like we have to treat others how we would want to be treated. We have to love our neighbor, not even just a little bit, not impartial, but full-heartedly. And whatever work we do with excellence and integrity. These are things that the apostles said, to work with excellence and integrity, whatever you do. You see the beautiful experience? You want to talk about red pill? Solomon, Old Testament, who said a seductive woman is a worse fate than death. I'm telling you guys, like, I know it sounds cliche, but the Old and New Testament gives so much guidance for this. And it even attacks, like, Mariana Fall and Piers Morgan in the scripture, where it says, pay not attention to the wars and rumors of wars, because they happen, like, with or without your control. And so we are definitely dealing with it's a cocktail of issues right now. And this video is going to be really long, but you know what? It had to be done. I had to comment on this one way or another. You can't just ignore it. It's awkward. It's bizarre. And I think, hopefully if it gets dark, the light shines brighter in the dark. And we need the SUN as much as we need the SON. Simple as that. And if you're triggered, you don't like that, you can unsubscribe.
And to all those in America, regardless of your political leanings, it is time for us to calm down, take a step back, and reflect. I hope that each and every one of you can find some wisdom in the contemplation of asking yourself, wouldn't it be better to live in a world where these things don't happen and we actually have our common dignity back? Wouldn't it be nice to live in a world where you can disagree without being disagreeable? And wouldn't it be nice to live in a world where, simply put, every year things get better instead of worse?
Yeah, 6,000 years later, we haven't figured out clean water. How about that? We could have just left it alone.
We're very close to a civil war in America. Things like this bring us so near. If not for a few centimeters, Trump could be dead.
Yeah, and there's those crazy wackos with like 10 followers who are like, oh, it's a deep fake. It's the same guys who can't even make their bed or like have any sort of VO2 endurance. It's just goblin fam. And people who do that are projecting their own. And pay attention to this. Pay attention to how people are viewing this. They say in scripture, you hang out with fools, you become a fool. You hang out with wise, you become wise. So guys, like, there's timeless advice, and really there's nothing new under the sun. Even this crypto stuff is the continued novelty and evolution of road planks and wooden road planks, and the tulip industry this, and the fintech that, and the crypto that, and guess what? The future is what? Cross-chain. You get it? Did you understand the reference?
And regardless of who the party picked as his replacement, it would create dramatic, deep, and perhaps unhealing divisions.
100%. It will create massive division. I think Joe needs to resign immediately, that old dementia man. He is not fit. He's not fit. He's just not. Like, look, it's not even a color issue, like, party. Put it someone else. Just put someone else, just not him. And yes, this is something I brought up to attention yesterday, was like the civil uproar, like civil war. That's serious. That can be long lasting and just tons of bad effects. So I'm glad that him and David Gokhshtein, a lot of spaces yesterday, Crypto Bros, having like decorum and having some open dialogue, no matter what. Like, this is something that's good about Web3 for the most part, is that people are willing to hear each other's opinions and be agreeable and disagreeable.
Which would cascade into the general election and beyond.
Yeah.
We got lucky in that respect as a nation. And we have to ask ourselves, do we feel comfortable with our entire fate resting upon the shoulders of luck? I don't. And I don't think that's any way to run a nation state with hundreds of millions of people, with as much power as we have. It makes no sense. We shouldn't be at the mercy of an assassin's bullet and the quality of his aim. The nation has to get beyond this. The nation has to heal. And the only way to do so is to restore trust in our institutions, to give them their integrity back. All of our institutions, the economic, political, and social. And the only way we're going to get there is by embracing technology that can't be evil, technology that can't lie to you. That's, I think, the great lesson that we have to learn from this. And I truly hope that people see the light. So thank you so much for listening. God bless and good night.
You know what? This is a very wholesome message. It's a very neutral message. It's a very uplifting, pro-human message. I don't think you can hate on this message. I don't even see it as like leaning towards that, It's about peace and goodness and wishing for good. So shout out to that. Appreciate that, Charles. And like I said, guys, he has many replies. So if you guys want to check it out, everything's linked below. Let's now segue. I mean, you heard my take. I'm an advocate for peace. I want peace and unity and harmony, and for us to enter the golden era. And if that means that we really need to push blockchain adoption further to be a transparent beacon of truth, then so be it. Because at the end of the day, like David G said, humans lie, the line doesn't. The line doesn't lie. Truth is in action. Well, let's take its segue out of that. Y'all know what I think. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe, hit the like. Let me know your thoughts on the situation, on the attempted assassination. Let's now segue into Cardano news. ADA DEX trading volume surpasses 50 million ADA this week. Yoda says as long as Cardano is one of the most decentralized blockchains, it will also have one of the largest communities. This correlation is correct. Begin wallets. I saw this is pretty fresh. Same as your unique X username, a personal web domain in your Web3 profile, completely free, cross-chain, compatible with multiple blockchains, and supported by ENS domains. 3.1 million users, 750 plus integrations. So this is cool. I like efforts to simplify blockchain, and especially with handles, usernames, it's easier than, right? No one can memorize that long number, nor should we, because humans are forgetful and chaotic and unpredictable. Design shows us that. And so this is cool. Tap Tools, MinSwap DEX, V2 is now integrated into Tap Tools. So Tap Tools been doing some great integrations. Speaking of MinSwap, yesterday they had 81% of Cardano DEX volume, with V2 accounting for 69. Oh, I like that number. Only 4 days after its launch, V2 almost had 5 times daily volume as V1. We are so glad to see V2 usage spreading like butter. So Cardano DeFi summer is here. Cardano will soon be the first to achieve both network decentralization, a box that was ticked in 2020, and decentralized governance, incoming 2024. That combination puts it in a league of its own. Simple as that. Can you afford not to own a piece of it? Right? It's evident that decentralization, governance are so important, with Linux Foundation being inspired by Charles, and with the recent events more than ever. New security icon is live, says Melon, Dex Hunter founder. And of course, we saw that they're making some improvements, and so they continue to improve the user experience and what's being reported here. So I like that. And that's when earlier we reported of adding some icons to show token safety info. And so that's cool. I think that's that new icon we see there. So good stuff there. Like that. I always like aggregators. I think there's always a good need for aggregators. 20%, guys, of nodes are reporting 9.0. So we're getting closer to a date being set for that Chang fork part 1. I'm very excited for governance, for the Genesis keys to be burnt, and for us to really become basically the one-stop shop of the ultimate decentralization, ultimate governance. I'll leave you with a couple of funny stuff, like in case, pretty sure I showed this already, but as y'all know, he did call Joe a babbling idiot. And I mean, rightfully so. Like, how else are you going to describe that? This might even be a compliment at this point. But this was funny, and I thought this was old. Crypto Degens, these were both posted today. So yesterday. Which blockchain founder aligns more with the crypto ethos and your values? Your values. Ethereum or Cardano? So take a look at this. Plain be like, me be like. I guess no amount of money in the world can buy, like, certain things, right? Man's still wearing masks, bro. Like, come on, bro. And then, of course, Charles, he's like, he's doing that, grabbing them things. Like, I don't even need to comment on this because YouTube. But it's, I mean, like, obviously I'm going to go with the latter. Like, what is this guy smoking? What is this guy smoking? Thank you, Zilong. Like, bruh. He's awkward. Guys, like, Vitalik, I tried to speak with him a couple years ago at a crypto event. And he was like, he doesn't have that stage fright, but he's definitely very, very reserved, very shy. And what is this, man? Of course I'll go with this, man. This is just bun this. Might have to market sell the ETH. Not really. I like ETH, but obviously we're dramatizing. And finally, that's pretty much it. It's pretty quiet because all eyes are on the Trump situation and what will happen the next 2 days in the words of Charles will be very pivotal. As we see, guys, I mean, Cardano has been climbing up. I'm sure the MAGA token has been pumping. I saw it just went parabolic after these events unfolded. Not to new all-time highs, but it pumped. I think we're going to continue to see some unexpected stuff. And this is still bearing true to my predictions in the past of being that we're going in pretty priced high into the halving. And that post-halving, it's going to be FUD. It's going to be some jitter. It's going to be sideways. So I will continue to watch. I'm happy in case you guys scooped up 3.2 and 3.69. I mean, you're up generously, 20-30%. But I think that we're going to continue to play with these ranges anywhere from like 33 cents to 43 cents. We may not be out of this dip yet, but lo and behold, this is the season of the final dip. And we may see, with the events unfolding recently, one of the most catapult-esque, iconic send-it moments to really multiply and amplify this and augment this narrative going into the bull run for end of Q4, Q1 of next year. So I think that we will surpass previous all-time high because we had little to none of these like apps and beautiful tech that we have today on Cardano. The community is bigger, governance, everything else that's going on with it. So I think we'll easily fly past $3 when I think Q1, Q2. I don't think it's going to be Q4. I think up until Q4, people might actually think that like the market is done and they might be exiting thinking that like, oh no, it's the over. And similar to last cycle, it's going to be going into those cold months where we see that Santa Claus coming in, you know what I'm saying? So let me know what you guys think. What are your thoughts on this situation? And do you think that he needs to resign? I mean, he's doing dial-up Inu. I think that Charles had a good, balanced, rational, sensible approach. But what are you guys' thoughts on the current situation? And how can Cardano come and perhaps be of utility to help in one way or another, help to improve the quality of our system and institutions and whatnot? I think it can play a role with governance and help out humanity. But let me know what you guys think. Hit that subscribe, hit that like. I'll see you in the next Angry Crypto Show.